Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today we are going to be wishing Adam Gase a happy birthday and talking about 5 things that he can improve on for 2020. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention that you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast. New episode drops every Monday. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can tune in there or right here on the YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. So Adam Gase clearly is not my favorite head coach. I did not want him to be the head coach when they made the hire in 2019, and now a year later I still am not sold on Adam Gase. But since it's his birthday, I thought we should talk about him. So instead of me praising him or whatever it is that you want me to do here, I'm going to say 5 things that he can improve on to help his chances to come back in 2021. So the first thing that I would like him to do is use LeVeon Bell correctly. First thing in that category, there's a few things in it obviously, is line him up in the slot. The New York Jets barely did that last year. His last year in Pittsburgh, 2017, he was lined up in the slot 77 times. Now, I don't have the final numbers, but through 12 games, LeVeon Bell was lined up in the slot 22 times. That's less than half. So I don't imagine him hitting another 10 to 15 times in the slot over the last 3 games that he played. He likely was around that 30 mark, which is way too low. That number should be about 60, 70 in that range because he is a dynamic threat in the slot and as a receiver, would be the Jets' best receiver on the roster right now, and he just wasn't utilized in that. On second and long, stop running him into the A gap. It is not useful. He is not a guy who you can say, okay, behind a bad offensive line, I'm just going to run you right up the middle and do that. No, he's a patient runner. He waits for holes to open up. Bilal Powell, someone who's a little bit more explosive, just hits the hole and goes, can probably do that a little bit better. That's why we had seen Bilal Powell show a little bit more success. But since the offensive line has improved, some more runs to the outside, and just on second down and long, please stop running the football. Lastly is throw him some screen passes. How many times do we see Le'Veon Bell catch screen passes? Really not that often. I would like to utilize him more in the passing game. That's ultimately what I wanted to get out of this. So my first thing for Adam Gase to do is actually use his star running back properly. Number 2 on my list is running RPOs, something the New York Jets didn't do last year that I was really surprised of. They did it once that I can remember, and probably a few times, but the most notable one is against the New York Giants when Sam Darnold ran an RPO and ended up running the ball into the end zone. Now that Sam is healthy for 2020, this is something that I would like the New York Jets to implement into their offense. It can work wonders, especially with a mobile quarterback, and Sam, as we know, is really good at throwing on the run, so I feel like this can get him outside the pocket and doing that. Sam Darnold only has 200 rushing yards in his career. I'm not saying he's going to be an 1,000-yard rusher, but there's no reason for him to be rushing for only 200 yards in his first 2 years in the league. I think he was at like 40 yards rushing last year. He could be someone who, runs every once in a while. I'm not saying I want him to be Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, or anything like that, but just someone who can be a little bit more mobile and make plays on the run. That is definitely something that I would like to see. So running RPOs is definitely something that Adam Gase should look to implement in the offense in 2020. Number 3, stop alienating players. He did it with Quincy Enunwa and that whole situation when he got fined. He did it with Kelechi Osalemi and all those other guys who filed grievances against the New York Jets. It happened in Miami. He plays favorites. That's basically the point that I want to say here. It's very clear that he plays favorites, and I would just like him to, for a change, stop being such a dictator. He hasn't really earned that trust because in the NFL, he had one 10-6 season, and then everything else has been extremely mediocre. And he doesn't really hold that right to be what he is when he's someone who's so overbearing and such a pain to work with. Not many guys around the league want to play for this guy, so stop playing favorites, I think is really more along the lines for what I'm trying to say here. Number 4, be more aggressive. The New York Jets were towards the bottom of the league on third and fourth down conversions. I have the numbers right here. So they were 31st in the league on third down conversions and 27th on fourth down conversions. Granted, a lot of the times in fourth down when they were going for it was when they were way down in games and trying to come back, but I would like to see them be a little bit more aggressive and go for it in fourth and short situations when the ball's around the 50-yard line and too long for a field goal. Something the Ravens have been doing so well is being aggressive and capitalizing on it. Teams who look more into analytics, which I guess is something that I would like the New York Jets to do, tend to go for it on 4th and short situations when the percentages of them getting that first down are much higher. So instead of punting on your 40-yard line and pinning them inside the 5 on 4th and 2, maybe go for it and try to extend the drive. At this point, the New York Jets don't have a lot to lose. They haven't made the playoffs in 10 years. It's time to be a little bit aggressive here. I'm not saying be crazy and when the ball's on your own 20-yard line on 4th and 10, you go for it. That's not what I'm saying at all. But when the ball is on the 50-yard line plus up until about what's field goal range, the 30 to 35-yard line, so anywhere between that 10 to 15-yard window on 4th and short, why not go for it? You have a top 10 defense in DVOA. Trust your offense. Trust that your defense could make a stop and play the percentages. That is definitely something I would like to see Adam Gase do more in 2020. Coming in at number 5, rounding out my list, is hire a real offensive coordinator. Dowell Loggins is essentially just a friend of Adam Gase. Over the last 3 years, Dowell Loggins has been a part of some of the worst offenses in the NFL. Over the last 3 years as an OC, in yards, he has been the 32nd, 31st, and 30th ranked offense, and in terms of points, 31, 26, and 29. He is not someone who is technically lighting it up. He essentially just throws the challenge flag and is a figurehead and a quarterback's coach. Do you really want this guy to be assigned with Sam Darnold? I know that I don't. Yes, Adam Gase calls the plays. Yes, he is more involved in the game plan, but Dowell Loggins is just basically along for the ride. I'd really like someone who can come in here and challenge Adam Gase, someone who, has had some success on offense in this league in recent years, something that neither Adam Gase or Dowell Loggins have really had. So I don't think that's a whole lot to ask for. When you have a bottom 2 offense in the league, changes usually happen, and the Jets have had no changes to their offensive coaching staff. So I would change out the offensive coordinator. If he brought in a real offensive coordinator here and just showed an effort that he was trying, then maybe I would feel a little bit differently. But those 5 things I think would position the New York Jets to have a little bit more success in 2020. I'm not saying he's going to be a perfect head coach if he makes these changes. He is still a flawed coach in my eyes. But if we are trying to say, listen, this is what we have, how can we improve on it? Those would be my 5 ways. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below or on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll talk to you next time.